The man of the hour himself, Ash. Brother, we
Mm.
would like to hear your experience at the game, what you saw, what your insights you had, um, everything that you saw, because I know you saw a lot of detail and your eyes would have been looking at things specifically. Can you
Yep.
share with us your experience, man, and what you saw, and what can we learn from that we might not see on the television screen?
Yeah, unbelievable, bro. Obviously, first of all, traveling to the game, you just know when the Warriors are going so well. Especially around Brisbane, Gold Coast area. If all my Warriors fans over in Australia, they'll understand. The travel on the trains. You seem to understand when the Warriors are going well and when they aren't. Those trains pack out, man. It's crazy, and hopefully everyone could hear us through the screens of your TVs and stuff. I think that the Warriors crowd, as always, is always hectic and loud, and I think we did the club proud over the weekend. But I think the biggest thing I took over, watching the game live, I think I discussed with you in the back room that, when you watch over your TV, you can see attacking shape and all that done so well. You can still see that live at a game, but it's kind of hard to tell, certain ball movements, what's really sticking really well. But what you can see is defensive movements, and I think that's what impressed me so much about the Warriors over the weekend is more of the fact of you can see how fit these guys are. They're not taking breaks in certain moments. You're seeing guys just having these performances where they're popping up on all sides of the field, just covering gaps and holes. And shout out to players like we'll touch on a couple of them, but Capewell was really noticeable out there. Probably a guy that's an unsung hero when you see him over TV, but when you watch this guy live, you're starting to notice the power he's putting through his shots these days. He must have just got these renewed shoulders, bro, because he is putting off shots left, right, and center. Shout out Herbie Farnworth. He'll be dealing with some ribcage issues for the next coming weeks. But Fisher Harris and Mitch Barnett, Aaron Clark, the mongrel these boys have at the moment too, the movement in our squad, just very, very impressed. And shout out to Tannistale Smith as well. As soon as he came on, and Jacob Laban as well, those boys just filled in those roles really nicely. Tanner was gifted a spot in the 25th minute, which is great from Webby. He's got a lot of trust in his boys, gets him out there, and he did not look out of place. We discussed that a little bit earlier on as well. So very, very happy with the defensive movements of the boys. I felt like every little mishap that we had, we covered for it. And shout out to the referee too for the 50-50 calls going our way, because man, I didn't know what to do. I was sitting as a Warriors fan going like, how do I react with these calls going our way? Like, am I a Broncos fan right now? Like, it feels like I'm a Broncos fan. Like, it's crazy. It's I could not believe that one live, bro. I watched it right in front of us, and I was like, no way we're getting this call, but
No,
we'll take it. We'll take it.
And in NFL terms, it was a recovered fumble. It was a fumble recovery. So that's why I say if Reece Walsh's was a lateral in NFL, then ours must have been a fumble recovery. So it's all right.
100%.
Based on NFL rules, we played by the book. We were absolutely fine. But it was a pivotal moment because you saw straight off that set, Metcalf went on a solo. That reminded me of a young Stacey.
Yep.
Stacey used to do it, a little chip over the top and through, and then find the man. That reminded me of 09 Stacey when he came back from Catalans and he did that little chip over at Manly, and then he dummy and went. It was just beautiful to see, and Capewell get on the end of that pass. That's like the second time he's been on the end of Metcalf's kind of line breaks. It was fantastic to see, but that quality that he's bringing, but yeah, those little pivotal moments, I know we got that one technically, but we didn't waste it either.
No.
And I've seen teams like the Melbourne Storm get calls and they don't care either. You know what I mean? So that's a sign of a good team that, okay, we get the call, we move on quickly, and we just don't stop. So I got a lot of respect and time for that too, man.
100%. Also, a big shout out to Luke Metcalf out there. Like, you can definitely hear him talk. You can see the arrangement that he gets the boys in. There's a lot of talking between, Luke, Chance, Aaron Clark's really big vocal out there as well. Like, him and Luke talk all the time, especially coming in for the kickoffs and that. I just saw them just barking at each other, like not barking as in like, talking each other down, but obviously, pointing tips to each other where, spaces could open up. It's really good to see live where you get to see the boys shape, how they defend certain things. And honestly, when you feel the contact live, like you really do, you hear the contact, you feel it. And you start to see, like, as I said, going back to having Fish out there and you get to see what Fish does live and how much, mana he has in his performance. Like, when when he hits, he wants to hit to hurt. His talk, he's so intimidating out there, and I'm so happy we have a guy like this in our jersey. Like, I've been missing this sort of Warriors for a long period of time, where whatever team comes up against us, they're coming out sore after the game, and we put a lot of pressure on that side. So very, very well done for the boys. Obviously, it got tight towards the end, but the Dolphins didn't score within till the 70th mark, even with things, maybe going their way a little bit in the second half. They weren't able to crack us to the last 10 minutes, and the only other one to get back in was due to Fish going off of the sin bin as well and misnumbering on that edge. So, defensively, bro, I felt calm and collected through this whole game. I thought the boys were really controlled, and just the way they were talking to each other, it just looks like a team. And I think that's what's the biggest difference from last year, right?
Yeah, it does. And I just want to talk a little bit about Capewah and how he's looked last year. You got to say that it was a bad year for him personally. The team was poor as well. Not taking it away from anything, but what's been the difference for the guy that you're thinking at this state and age of his career? You're thinking he's on the downer, but in fact he's picked up a gear or two. What do you think that is? Is that Webby? Is that fitness? Is it a better culture, or what do you think? What do you make of Capewell's kind of resurgence?
I think it's pretty much hit the nail on the head on majority of those things that you just said. Like, I'll start off with culture. Webby's quite vocal that last year he feels like he didn't get the preseason right, as in the fact of like, he's talking a lot in this preseason, a lot about connectiveness and getting the boys together and being a really close unit, while also getting your training in and doing all the hard stuff, right? He also spoke about after the game that Capewell was carrying a little bit of injuries last year. So whether fitness was an issue, having little niggling injuries during the year, which pretty much was across our whole squad, as we all know in 2024, we definitely had a very poor injury run that year too. So I think it's a little bit of that. I think it's, maybe him selling in over in New Zealand a little bit more. Whether he does obviously fulfill the rest of his contract, stay out and maybe extend for us, I'm not too sure, but he looks comfortable. He looks a part of the squad now, throwing up the Munna waves every so often and stuff. Like, yeah, he does look like he's just a part of the squad. He's settled down a little bit, and the culture around the squad is making it easier for these guys to play for the jersey, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I went as far as to say that could be a Hoffman type signing, and I look absolutely stupid. He's gone well and above. He's starting to work into that echelon of. I'm not saying he is there yet, but of some of our Aussies' favourites is like a Michael Luck. If he continues to have that, he might get into that echelon. But his performances wherever he is on the field, like the number he did on Herbie, I thought was
unreal.
He was all over the shop, man. He was really shutting it down. And I think this is kind of the part of missed tackles too. I know he has the missed tackle high ratio, but I think it's in fact, if you look at it, it's actually he makes those scramble tackles. He might drop off, but in those situations, you need to just literally slow the person down enough for your cover defense to get there. So I think that's a miscued kind of misinterpreted stat about him. He's doing a lot of the those one-on-one tackles that you might not be completed as a tackle, but if you slow him down enough, your CHT can come across or whoever to make the rest of the tackle. So I do think he's getting a bad knock in some statistical things.
Well, that's the thing about stats too, bro. Right? Is stats. You shouldn't allow stats to tell the whole story. You should allow stats to tell part of the story, and you round out your views with your eye test as well, right? You kind of put two and two together. What Capewell does so well, right? He'll have those missed tackle stats due to his line speed, wanting to shut down on plays, pushing players back on the inside, right? But he also, what he does so well and what you get to see live is in those moments where everything's breaking down. Let's say, the defense, the attack is starting to get a roll on in our boys. Maybe there was a line break. He's always the first one back in that line, and he'll defend on the opposite side of the field to make sure everyone's back and then get himself back into the other position. Like, he's done that multiple times this year that I've seen from TV, and you get to see it live as well and just see how much he can move his way around the field and just, put out fires wherever he needs to be. And that's experience, that's time. Those missed tackle stats, I've been saying for a longest period of time, I love using stats. You guys know how much I love stats, but stats should only tell like a little part of the story. You should round it out with everything else, and stats should just elevate the story that you're running with, right? And you know, with Capewell, it is a little bit of that, right? Where you start to see just more of the guy that he's really up in your face, line speed. He'll bounce off of tackles, but you know that guy will go again and again and again.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of his missed tackles turn into line breaks. So I think that's where maybe some more stats in a little bit more of a critical area could help in the future for NRL. And we discussed this over time, but NRL stats are pretty simplistic. It's really tough to say who's the best defensive player in the game. Like, for example, right? I'll put it this way. Robert Sawyer got a center spot debutant. A lot of people are going around and saying that he statistically is the best defensive center in the competition right now, which statistically he is going off tackle efficiency. But we all probably know who's the best defensive center in the competition right now, and that is Stephen Crichton, and he has a lower tackle efficiency. So we got to round out these sort of views and kind of look at it that way as well. The stats only tell a part of the story.
I mean, I'd love to have a stat where it's third man tackles, third man in.
Yeah,
that would. Yep. That'd be a great way of differentiating who making first contact, and which I don't think would be too hard to create as a stat.
No,
personally. So yeah, those are certain things. Absolutely. Let's get into this. So, any other standouts? Anyone else catch your eye? I know Fish. Yeah, Capewah.
Yep.
Anyone else that you're thinking, wow, man, they really stood out a little bit.
Shout out to Adam Pompey. Adam Pompey,
I was going to say Pomps, yeah.
Bro, that line break he had, both shoes coming off, man. Like, I thought he had a really solid knock. Shout out to Pomps. He's definitely, we've always said he just does a great job for what he does, right? He's a good center, but he has these moments in him as well now. So he's definitely continuing to grow throughout his career. And the last one is Leka Lasima. For such a young kid and for, everyone to be known him as this explosive back row, which he still is, but him playing long minutes now and getting through a ton of work within those minutes and doing a lot of really good, clean up work, bouncing out where he needs to be, but just those consistent runs over time. For such a young kid, like he's doing all the right things to be a long-term future great of New Zealand Warriors if he keeps down this track.
I just want to just devil's advocate a little bit. Do you think Leka's getting a little bit on the tired side? Just that kind of sophomore blues a little bit, or am I just overthinking it?
Possibly. I didn't really take a notice of that while watching the game. Like, I felt like late on in the game, and I've noticed this in the Cowboys game as well. Late on, he was trying to make those big defensive moments to shut the game down when the Dolphins were trying to come home. So maybe it could be just little moments in between the tackles where he is trying to catch his breath. But what's this, 3 games in a row now that he's hit over that 70-minute? Maybe he's gone 80 minutes for each game.
He went 80,
double check. He went 80 again. So I think that's 3 games in a row he's been around over that mark. So very, very good knock for a young kid. There could be a possibility that maybe he is getting a little bit tired. Maybe we're putting too many minutes on him right now. And I'm sure Webby will end up switching that around when we get a full deck of cards, maybe. The Leka will come back off the bench, right? But, he's already showing now that he can punch out those 80 minutes with consistency. And he's not really letting the team down, especially on the defensive end, which is probably the biggest thing for a young kid, right?
It's more so, is he at the top of the curve? Like, he's still climbing. Is there a drop? I'm trying to predict, not so much predict, but am I seeing that there might be a little drop off of, technically a rookie kind of still getting his legs under him? And to be fair, he's had 3 massive games where, and I'm not using that compared to his time off the bench. That's totally different. No. I'm just talking about general, rookie legs finding their feet. They can burn out a little bit. I don't think it's quite there, but I just had a little inkling of like, okay, maybe he needs to freshen up. And look, Webby can do it once everyone comes back. And but what he's doing right now is, it's unbelievable. Like for his age and all of that, you're absolutely right. Can be one of the greats. Definitely can.
And even on that too, bro, Jacob Laban's minutes when he came on, consistently, I don't think he's had the greatest attacking moments when he's come on. He obviously scoring a try over the weekend. That was unbelievable. And, his quick play to ball speed, all that sort of stuff, right? But statistically, a lot of people will be like, oh, I ran for 40 meters. But those 40 meters are noticeable out there. But his defensive work, Jacob Laban, he's a very good guy to see. If Leka does end up teetering around that edge, we can put Laban in there, getting used to those starting minute roles too, because because I do believe he's more likely to go the longer minutes sort of out of the two. And then obviously, you know, when Kurt Capewell and that falls out of the centre squad, they're probably going to switch Lecker back to the bench and make him more impact for time. But he will get his time where he's going to be a starting edge back rower in this competition. And maybe, who knows, maybe could go towards Lecker and Kurt Capewell and Ratzenir Corday off the bench in the middle, which is what I envision. But you're 100% right. He's a rookie. We got to ease him in some sort of sense, but he's also hit the ground running as well. So I don't want to hold him back too much either.